Now, are you a younger triathlete, maybe a parent of a younger triathlete, or even a coach of a younger triathlete? If so, this video is for you. See, I came into triathlon as a junior athlete from a swimming background, and to be honest, I knew very little about the sport of triathlon. As a result, I made a lot of mistakes, and I really learned the hard way as a result of those. Now, I thought I'd take the opportunity today to share a few tips for you to make sure that you don't make those same mistakes. So I've got some triathlon training advice for the younger athlete, including for those youth and junior age group categories. Okay, let's start with a few ground rules, and I've got 4 tips for you. First tip, have fun. Now, triathlon is an amazing sport, but of course, you know that. That's why you're doing the sport in the first place, but do not forget that. It's very easy when you get stuck into doing races and a race season of kind of losing sight of all of that. But try and remember why you got involved in that sport in the first place. For me, I absolutely love meeting new people and having fun with that. I love riding my bike and exploring on that and finding new places. I also love running off-road. So whatever it is that you love about the sport, don't forget it. Okay, tip 2, hold yourself back. Now, I know that is a really hard thing to take on board as a younger athlete when you're full of energy, but honestly, I have seen and experienced it firsthand when athletes get carried away at a far too young age. You can't actually, handle as much volume or amount of training as a younger athlete because your body is still growing, you're still strengthening, and you're still allowing time to adapt to these demands of triathlon. And actually, by getting carried away at this younger age, doing too much training, you're potentially at risk of overdoing it, burning yourself out, and maybe even getting injured. And trust me, I've been there and got the t-shirt, unfortunately. It's far more important that we hold ourselves back, we're patient, we make sure that we're healthy, and we think about our future within the sport, which leads me nicely on to tip 3. This is the time that you should really be focusing on your technique more than anything, because if you can really nail that technique, you can not only make things easier for yourself, but ultimately faster in the long run too. So I'd also suggest joining your local triathlon, swimming, cycling or running club so they can give you this technical advice and feedback on what you're currently doing. But you can also do your own technical stuff from your own home. So I used to practice ridiculous things like putting my helmet on, clipping it up, unclipping it, taking it off. So I was really trying to nail that transition. I practiced that over and over and over again, so it literally became like second nature. I could do that with my eyes closed. When I ran through transition, I'd nail that whilst everyone else was frantically rushing through, not sure what they were going to do, and that used to gain me a few seconds. Okay, tip 4, final tip, is to break it all down. And I'm actually talking about your actual training sessions here. You shouldn't be doing any crazy long sessions or reps within those sessions. It's really important that you break it all down into relatively bite-sized chunks so you really nail those individual sections of a session. You're ultimately striving for a well-executed, a well-performed session rather than going for meaningless miles. Now that's all the ground rules covered. We're going to move on now as we look at each of the individual disciplines, starting with the swimming. Well, it is the first discipline in a triathlon after all, but I would actually go as far as saying it is the most important discipline as a younger athlete. Why? Well, as I explained earlier, we are still growing and we're developing as a younger athlete. Cycling and running actually put a lot of stress and potentially a lot of impact through our body, particularly with the running, and we want to limit that as much as we can. However, swimming, on the other hand, is non-weight bearing, meaning our body and our joints receive very little impact, all whilst improving our strength. So with all that in mind, I'd actually recommend focusing a larger portion of your total triathlon training time on the swim when you first start out. Not necessarily all of it, but maybe up to half of it on the swim. So let's say, for instance, you're training 6 hours per week. You might want to do 3 of those on the swim, 2 hours on the bike, and maybe up to an hour on the run. Now, I know that might sound quite surprising, but trust me, it does work. And not forgetting that also the fitness gained from the swimming does transfer over to the other 2 disciplines. And if you really nail that technique at a younger age, you're going to be laughing when you get older. Okay, we're now for the cycling, and I'm changing my cycle kit today because I'm going to run you through a little bit of a demonstration. Again, same as the swimming, this is the time to be focused on things like your bike skills and your technique rather than just churning out the miles. Now, I brought these cones along today because I'm going to be lining out a little bit of an obstacle course here. I'm going to weave my way through it. These are really cheap to pick up from your local sports store, and you want to make sure that you're using a nice, open, traffic-free area for this. So carefully build your speed as you build confidence. You can even move the cones around, make them tighter if you like, or make them further apart with a little bit more speed. Do what you like, just have fun. Okay, so moving on from that, and another fun technical skill is putting a bottle on the ground, as I have just behind me, and we're going to try and pick that bottle up. Just make sure you're careful and make sure you've got your helmet on. You can do this whichever way you like. It's a fantastic way of learning to move around the bike and keeping the bike balanced at the same time. And the beauty is, you can do these all year round and even start to build transition practice into them. Okay, so an obvious consideration for cycling at a young age is obviously safety and also the traffic. Now, if you're lucky enough, you might have a traffic-free circuit that you can use near you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Now, you might want to throw in the odd hard effort during a ride, which is great, but I just make sure you don't do anything overly structured at a young age. Just make sure you enjoy it. But as you get to the age of about 15, that's when you might want to start including some structured, short sessions into your training under the guidance of a coach. But as I've mentioned earlier, just make sure you keep those reps relatively short so that you can really focus on the quality. And of course, not forgetting the running. And you're going to think I'm a stuck record here, but it is all about the technique. But conveniently, if you do join a local athletics club, which I really do advise you try to do, then they'll actually build a lot of these drills into their current training plan, as well as offering maybe a number of other events for you to do. Field events such as high jump, which I know might not sound that specific to triathlon, but I'd really actually advise you lap that up, because they can help to develop your speed, your strength, your coordination, even your flexibility, which are all really useful for you as a younger athlete. But then as you start to grow older, develop a little bit more, maybe around the age of 15, it would be wise to start focusing a little bit more on that middle distance running group, that sort of 1500 meter area, because triathlon after all is an endurance event, so you want to be focusing on those longer distance run races rather than the shorter ones. However, as I mentioned earlier, it's really important that you make sure that you minimize that impact whilst you're running. So make sure that you opt for a good pair of running shoes, and also just stick to the grass and trails. Don't worry about running on hard surfaces like the road or even a track. Plus, this stuff's way more fun as well. Now, give you a little bit of a session idea here, which I used to love doing with my local athletics club when I was younger. And it's a little game of knockout that you'll do as a group. Now, you'll run as many laps of a track, and we just used to use a playing field track, and we'd do as many laps as there were athletes in the group, and we'd knock out an athlete after each lap. That athlete was the last person to cross the line. So it almost becomes a bit of a tactical game of speed and endurance. You don't want to go off too fast, otherwise you'll tire, but equally you don't want to get knocked out on each lap. And ultimately, before you know it, you've done a really hard session and had great fun doing it. And finally, rest. Don't be afraid to accept that you're tired. This is honestly my biggest mistake as a youngster. I was always ignoring that little sniffle or cold. If you're tired, you need to rest up. Just do that. And that also accounts for during your training as well. If you're tired, you're not going to be able to nail that session well or the technique correctly. Now, if you are a young triathlete out there, please do get involved in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. And also just drop any questions in there. I'd love to reply to them for you. And hit that thumbs up button if you've enjoyed today's video, and you can click on the globe if you're not subscribed to the channel already. And if you'd like to see our top 3 swim drills to improve your front crawl technique, you can see that by clicking down here. And if you'd like to have a little bit of a laugh at us guys at GTN trying to take on the Ironman Lanzarote course record, then you can click that just here.